There are moments when desperation becomes visible, when it clings to a person like smoke, thick and suffocating, until even strangers can see it from across a room. Ella Monroe had reached that point 3 months ago. She moved through the diner with practiced efficiency, balancing plates that smelled of burnt coffee and reheated gravy, her feet aching in shoes held together by duct tape and prayer. The fluorescent bulbs hummed overhead, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that made even the youngest customers look tired. But Ella didn't notice anymore. She'd stopped seeing beauty years ago, when her daughter's diagnosis came through and the medical bills started arriving like clockwork, each one heavier than the last. Lily was 6 years old. She had her mother's dark curls and her father's smile, though her father had been gone long before she was born. The leukemia had come suddenly, violently, the way all terrible things do when you're already barely surviving. The treatment was experimental, expensive, and not covered by the insurance Ella couldn't afford in the first place. So she worked. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. She slept 4 hours a night if she was lucky. She stopped eating so Lily could. She learned to smile through exhaustion, so complete it felt like drowning. And still, it wasn't enough. The numbers didn't lie. The hospital bills stacked higher each week. The landlord had started leaving notes, polite at first, then less so. Ella had sold everything worth selling. Her mother's ring. Her laptop. The television Lily used to watch cartoons on before she got too sick to sit up for long. Tonight, as Ella wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She already knew what it was. Another reminder. Another deadline. Another door closing. She excused herself to the bathroom, locked the stall, and let herself cry for exactly 90 seconds. That was all she could afford. When she returned to the floor, the diner was emptying out. The night shift dragged slower than the day, filled with truckers and insomniacs and people who had nowhere else to go. Ella poured coffee, cleared tables, smiled until her face hurt. And then he walked in. Before we go on, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. He didn't look like the others. That was the first thing she noticed. He wore a suit that cost more than her rent, perfectly tailored, dark as midnight. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. His face was hard, carved from stone and shadow, with eyes that took in everything and revealed nothing. He moved through the diner like he owned it, not arrogant, but certain. The kind of certainty that comes from never being told no. 2 men followed behind him, broad-shouldered and silent. They didn't sit. They simply stood near the door, hands folded, watching. The man took a booth in the corner. He didn't look at the menu. Ella's manager, Ray, appeared beside her, his voice low and urgent. That's Alessandro Moetti. Don't mess this up. She'd heard the name before. Everyone had. Even in a city this size, certain names carried weight. Alessandro Moetti wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful, dangerous. The kind of man whose business dealings were whispered about in back rooms and courtrooms. The kind of man who made problems disappear. Ella approached the table with her notepad and her practiced smile. What can I get you? He looked up at her, and for a moment, the world went very still. His eyes were dark, almost black, and they held her in place like a hand around her throat. Not cruel. Not kind. Just steady. Present. Like he saw past the uniform and the false cheer and the exhaustion she wore like a second skin. Coffee, he said. His voice was low, smooth, edged with an accent she couldn't place. Black. She nodded, turned to leave. You're tired. It wasn't a question. Ella froze, her back still to him. I'm fine, she lied. You're not. She should have walked away. Should have ignored him. But something in his tone, calm, factual, almost gentle, made her turn back around. I work 2 jobs, she said quietly. Everyone's tired. He studied her for a long moment, and she felt the weight of that gaze like a physical thing. 3 jobs, he corrected. And a daughter in the hospital. Her blood went cold. How do you? I know things, he said simply. It's what I do. Ella's hands trembled. She gripped her notepad tighter. I should get your coffee. Sit down. I can't. I'm working. Sit down, Ella. The use of her name should have terrified her. Instead, it anchored her. She glanced toward Ray, who was deliberately looking away, pretending not to notice. The diner was almost empty now. The other customers weren't paying attention. Slowly, Ella slid into the booth across from Alessandro Moretti. He folded his hands on the table. "Tell me about Lily." And somehow, impossibly, she did. She told him about the diagnosis, the treatments, the bills that never stopped coming. She told him about the landlord and the sold belongings and the nights she lay awake doing math that never added up. She told him things she hadn't told anyone, because he listened the way people rarely do, without pity, without judgment, without offering empty reassurances. When she finished, her voice was hoarse. Alessandro was silent for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He placed it on the table between them. "The hospital bills will be taken care of by morning," he said. "Your rent for the next year as well. You'll receive a bank transfer covering Lily's treatment, all of it." Ella stared at him. "Why would you?" "Because I can." "I don't understand." "You don't need to." She looked down at the card. It was simple, expensive looking, with just a phone number embossed in silver. No name. No title. "I can't accept this," she whispered. "You already have." "I don't know you." "You will." He stood then, buttoning his jacket with the same careful precision he seemed to bring to everything. His men moved toward the door. Ella's heart hammered against her ribs. "What do you want from me?" Alessandro paused. He looked back at her, and something flickered in those dark eyes, something she couldn't name. "Nothing you're not willing to give," he said. "But I will come back. And when I do, you'll make a choice." He left without another word. Ella sat alone in the booth, holding the business card, feeling the world shift beneath her feet in ways she couldn't yet understand. By morning, as he'd promised, everything had changed. The hospital called first. The bills, all of them, stretching back months, had been paid in full by an anonymous donor. Lily's treatment could continue without interruption. The experimental therapy they'd been denied was suddenly approved, funded, arranged. Then the landlord called. Apologetic now. Rent paid for 12 months in advance. No explanations given. Ella's bank account, empty yesterday, showed a deposit that made her knees weak. She should have felt relief, gratitude, joy. Instead, she felt the invisible threads beginning to wind around her, delicate as silk and just as strong. Alessandro Moretti had saved her daughter's life. And somehow, Ella knew, with the same certainty she knew her own name, that he had just claimed heirs. When a debt is too large to repay, it stops being a debt and becomes something else entirely. Ella understood this the moment she tried to return Alessandro's money. She'd spent 2 days trying to reach him. The number on the business card rang endlessly, never answered, never went to voicemail. She asked around carefully, quietly, but no one would talk about Alessandro Moretti directly. People would change the subject, or suddenly remember somewhere they needed to be, or simply shake their heads with a look that said, *don't. On the third day, he came back. It was late afternoon, the space between lunch and dinner when the diner was almost empty. Ella was refilling salt shakers when the door opened and he walked in, alone this time, his presence filling the room like a change in air pressure. She set down the salt and met him at the same corner booth. "I can't keep your money," she said before he could speak. Alessandro removed his coat, draped it carefully over the back of his seat, and sat down. "Yes, you can." "I don't want to owe you." "You don't." "Then why?" "Because Lily deserves to live," he said simply. "And you deserve to sleep at night. That's reason enough." Ella's throat tightened. "Nothing's free. You'll want something eventually." "Eventually," he agreed. "But not what you think." She sat down across from him, exhausted from 3 days of anxiety and confusion. "Then what?" He was quiet for a moment, studying her with that same unsettling intensity. "Your daughter's next treatment is in 3 weeks. You'll need to stay close to the hospital. Your apartment is 40 minutes away." "I'll manage." "You won't." He pushed a key across the table. "There's a place 10 minutes from the hospital. 2 bedrooms, furnished, utilities paid. It's yours." Ella stared at the key like it might bite her. "I can't. Lily needs you rested. You can't help her if you're collapsing from exhaustion." Why do you care? The question hung in the air between them. Alessandro leaned back, his expression unreadable. Maybe I'm tired of watching people suffer when I can do something about it. Or maybe I see something in you that reminds me of someone I couldn't save. He paused. Does the reason matter? Yes, Ella wanted to say. It matters because kindness without reason feels like a trap. But she thought of Lily, pale and small in her hospital bed, asking when they could go home, to a home they were about to lose. She thought of the nights ahead, the drives back and forth, the precious minutes lost when every moment with her daughter felt borrowed. She picked up the key. 3 weeks, she said. Then we'll talk about whatever this is. Alessandro's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. 3 weeks. She moved the next day. The apartment was in a building she'd passed 100 times but never imagined entering, brick and glass, with a doorman who nodded at her like she belonged there. The unit itself was beautiful in a way that felt almost painful. Clean lines, soft light, furniture that looked like it had never been used. Lily's room had been prepared with care, pale yellow walls, a bed with rails for safety, space for medical equipment. Someone had thought of everything. Someone who knew exactly what a sick child needed. Ella stood in the doorway of that room and felt something crack inside her chest, gratitude and fear in equal measure. That night, she called the number on the business card. This time, he answered on the first ring. Thank you, she said quietly. You're welcome. I still don't understand why you're doing this. You will. He hung up before she could respond. The weeks that followed took on a strange rhythm. Ella spent her days at the hospital with Lily, who was responding well to the treatment, her color slowly returning, her smile coming more easily. Ella spent her nights in the beautiful apartment that didn't feel like hers, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Alessandro appeared periodically, never announced, never explained. He'd show up at the hospital with books for Lily, classics and fairy tales, stories about brave girls who saved themselves. He'd arrive at the apartment with groceries, always the right things, never asking what she needed. Once, he brought a stuffed rabbit that Lily immediately named Mr. Moetti, which made the corner of his mouth twitch in something almost like a smile. He never stayed long, never asked for anything, never touched her. But Ella felt his presence even when he wasn't there, in the way the hospital staff suddenly treated her with deference, in how problems disappeared before she knew they existed, in the invisible net of protection that had closed around her and Lily. If you've ever felt the weight of gratitude become something heavier, something more complicated, you'll understand what happened next. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. One evening, 3 weeks to the day after she'd moved in, Alessandro knocked on the apartment door. Ella had put Lily to bed an hour earlier, exhausted from treatment but happy, clutching Mr. Moetti and asking for one more story. Ella had read until her daughter's breathing evened out, then sat in the living room in the dark, knowing this conversation was coming. She opened the door. Alessandro stood in the hallway, still in his suit, but his tie was loosened and he looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before. Human, almost. May I come in? She stepped aside. He entered, moved to the window, looked out at the city lights spread below them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. 3 weeks. He said finally, You wanted to talk. Ella wrapped her arms around herself. What do you want from me, Alessandro? He turned to face her. The same thing you want. To stop being alone. The honesty of it stole her breath. I don't. You've been alone for years, he continued, his voice quiet but firm. Carrying everything by yourself. No one to help, no one to trust. You're so used to fighting that you've forgotten how to let someone stand beside you. And you? She challenged. You're used to people saying yes because they are afraid of you. Yes. The admission caught her off guard. I'm used to fear, he said. To obedience. To transactions. But you looked at me in that diner and saw a person, not a name. Not what I could do to you, or for you. Just me. He moved closer, slowly, like approaching something wild. Do you know how rare that is? Ella's heart hammered. So this is about ego. About someone who isn't impressed. No. He stopped a few feet away. This is about finding someone who makes the noise stop. She understood that. God help her, she understood it completely. I can't be what you need, she whispered. You already are. I'm a mess. I'm broke, I'm terrified, You're strong, he interrupted. Stronger than you know. You're kind, even when the world has given you every reason not to be. You love your daughter more than you fear what comes next. And when you smile, really smile, the world feels less empty. Ella's eyes burned. You don't know me. I'm learning. What if I disappoint you? You won't. What if I want to leave? Alessandro's expression was steady, certain. Then I'll let you go. She didn't believe him, couldn't afford to. But when he reached out, slowly, and took her hand, just held it, warm and solid and real, she didn't pull away. Stay, he said quietly. Not because you owe me. Not because you're afraid. Stay because you're tired of being alone, and so am I. Ella looked up at him, this dangerous man who had saved her daughter, who had given her safety without demanding anything in return, who looked at her like she was something precious instead of something broken. Okay, she breathed. And with that single word, everything changed. There is a particular kind of surrender that happens when exhaustion finally catches up with fear. Ella felt it that night, standing in her apartment with Alessandro's hand still holding his, warm and steady and surprisingly gentle. She'd been running for so long, from bill collectors, from bad news, from the reality that she might lose Lily despite everything she sacrificed, that the simple act of standing still felt revolutionary. I should check on Lily, she said, though she didn't move. Go ahead. I'll wait. She slipped down the hallway, eased open Lily's door, and found her daughter sleeping peacefully, Mr. Moetti tucked under one arm. The medical equipment beeped softly in the corner, a sound that had once terrified Ella, but now felt like a lullaby, proof that her daughter's heart kept beating, that they'd made it through another day. When she returned to the living room, Alessandro had made coffee. He handed her a cup without asking if she wanted it, because somehow he knew she did. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, a careful distance between them. Tell me about her, Alessandro said. The woman I remind you of. He was quiet for so long that Ella thought he might not answer. Then, her name was Gabriella. My sister. He stared into his coffee. She was sick, like Lily. We were poor then, before I became what I am now. We couldn't afford treatment. My parents begged, borrowed, stole everything they could. It wasn't enough. Ella's chest tightened. She was 7 when she died. I was 12. His voice remained steady, factual, but his grip on the cup was white-knuckled. I swore I'd never be that helpless again. Never let money be the thing that decided whether someone lived or died. Alessandro. I built this empire on that promise, he continued. Did things I'm not proud of. Hurt people who probably deserved it, and some who didn't. Made myself into something powerful enough that I'd never have to watch someone I loved die because I couldn't save them. He looked at her then, and Ella saw the truth of him. The boy who'd lost his sister, the man who'd turned grief into armor, the person underneath all that careful control. When I saw you in that diner, he said quietly, working yourself to death to save your daughter, I saw my mother, my father, myself. And I thought, not again. Not if I can stop it. Ella set down her coffee with shaking hands. You saved Lily because of Gabriella. I saved Lily because she deserves to live. And I'm helping you because... He trailed off, searching for words. Because when I'm near you, I remember what it felt like to be human, before everything else. Something inside Ella shifted, the fear loosening, the walls lowering, the terrible weight of solitude easing just slightly. I'm scared, she admitted. Of what this is. Of what it might become. Me too. The honesty of it made her smile despite everything. You don't seem scared of anything. I'm terrified of you, he said simply. Of how much I already care. Of what I'd do if something happened to you, or Lily. Of how different the world looks when you're in it. If you've ever felt torn between fear and love, you'll understand her. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ella moved closer, closing the distance between them. What happens now? Now you rest. Tomorrow you spend with Lily. And the day after that. And the day after that. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear with unexpected gentleness. I'll be here when you need me. And when you don't. Until you tell me to leave. And if I never tell you to leave. Alessandro's expression softened. Then I suppose I'll stay. She kissed him then, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she was, and she was tired of letting fear make all her decisions. His lips were warm, surprisingly soft, and he responded with a tenderness that contradicted everything she'd heard about Alessandro Moetti. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I won't hurt you, he murmured. Either of you. You might not mean to. But your world. My world won't touch you. I'll make sure of it. She wanted to believe him. Needed to. Stay tonight, she whispered. Just stay. He did. They didn't make love, didn't push for more than either was ready for. They simply lay together on the couch, Ella curled against Alessandro's chest, his arms wrapped around her, both of them breathing in sync. She fell asleep listening to his heartbeat, steady and sure, and for the first time in years, she felt safe. The next weeks unfolded like a dream, fragile and beautiful and slightly unreal. Alessandro integrated himself into their lives with the same quiet competence he brought to everything else. He showed up at the hospital during Lily's treatments, sitting patiently through the long hours, reading to her when Ella needed to step away, making her daughter laugh with stories about a grumpy rabbit named Mr. Moretti who was secretly very brave. Lily adored him. She'd light up when he walked in, reaching out with small hands to show him her drawings or tell him about what the nurses had said. She called him Mr. Alessandro with the particular formality of children trying to be grown up, and he'd respond with the same seriousness, as if they were discussing matters of great importance. Is Mr. Alessandro your boyfriend? Lily asked one afternoon, her voice curious but weak from treatment. Ella glanced at Alessandro, who raised an eyebrow, waiting for her answer. Is our friend, Ella said carefully. A very good friend, Alessandro added, who happens to think your mother is extraordinary. Lily giggled. That's what boyfriends say. Then I suppose I'm caught, he replied solemnly. And Ella's heart, that guarded, careful thing, cracked open a little more. But safety, she was learning, came with a price. She started noticing things, small at first, then increasingly obvious. The way hospital staff treated her with deference bordering on fear. How other patients' families would glance at Alessandro and quickly look away. The subtle presence of security she hadn't asked for but somehow always had. One evening, she overheard two nurses in the hallway. That's Moetti's girl, one whispered. The kid too. I heard he paid off the entire pediatric wing's debt just to make sure they got priority treatment. That's not generosity. That's ownership. The words settled in Ella's stomach like stones. That night, after Lily was asleep, she confronted Alessandro. People are afraid of you. He didn't deny it. Yes. The hospital staff, the other families, they look at you like you're dangerous. I am dangerous. But not to us. Never to you. Ella paced the small apartment, her anxiety building. What exactly do you do, Alessandro? Your business, what is it? He was quiet for a moment, weighing his words. I handle problems that can't be solved through legal channels. I move money that needs to be moved. I protect people who need protection and remove obstacles for those who can pay. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman. The law and morality don't always align. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you. He stood, moved toward her. I've done things I'm not proud of. Hurt people who deserved it and some who didn't. Built an empire on fear and force. But I've also kept my sister's memory alive by making sure other families don't suffer like mine did. I protected people who had no one else. And I've never, not once, involved innocence in my work. Until us. You're not involved. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? Ella's voice rose. Because it feels like we're in a cage. A beautiful, comfortable cage, but still. Then leave. The words cut through her spiraling thoughts. Alessandro's expression was calm, steady. If you want to go, go. I'll make sure Lily's treatment continues. The apartment is yours until she's well. The money stays regardless. You owe me nothing, Ella. You never did. She stared at him. Just like that. Just like that. You'd let us walk away. I'd let you do whatever you need to feel safe. And there it was, the trap that wasn't a trap at all. The bars made of kindness instead of threat. The prison built from care rather than control. She could leave. He meant it. But Lily was thriving under his protection. And Ella had started to need him in ways that terrified her. I'm scared, she whispered. Alessandro closed the distance between them, cupped her face in his hands. Of me. Of this. Of caring about you. Of what happens when your world and ours collide. It won't. You can't promise that. Watch me. He kissed her then, gentle and fierce all at once, and Ella let herself fall into it, into him, into this impossible situation that felt both like salvation and damnation. When they broke apart, she rested her head against his chest. I don't want to leave, she admitted. Then stay. Even though I'm terrified. Especially then. And so she did. Love, Ella discovered, doesn't ask permission before it arrives. It simply takes root and grows, regardless of the soil. The days blurred together in a rhythm that felt almost normal. Hospital visits in the morning, Lily's treatments in the afternoon, quiet evenings in the apartment with Alessandro when his work allowed. He never discussed his business in front of them, never brought danger to their door, but Ella could see it in the tension he carried, in the late-night phone calls he took in the hallway, in the way his jaw would tighten when news came that he didn't like. But with Lily, he transformed. Patient, gentle, endlessly creative in finding ways to make her smile. He brought her puzzle books and colored pencils and a children's telescope they'd set up by the window to watch the stars. He learned her favorite stories and told them with voices and sound effects that made her laugh until she couldn't breathe. And with Ella, he was something else entirely, attentive and careful, always asking permission, never assuming. He'd hold her hand while they walked through the hospital corridors. He'd bring her tea the way she liked it without being asked. He'd look at her sometimes like she was the solution to a problem he'd been trying to solve his entire life. You're staring, Ella said one evening, catching his gaze across the dinner table. Lily had fallen asleep early, worn out from treatment, leaving them alone with takeout and silence. Alessandro didn't look away. Am I not allowed to? It's unnerving. You're beautiful when you're unnerved. She threw a napkin at him. He caught it, smiling, one of those rare, genuine smiles that made him look younger, less burdened. What happens when Lily's treatment is finished? Ella asked, the question that had been haunting her for weeks finally finding voice. Alessandro's smile faded. What do you want to happen? I don't know. We can't stay in this apartment forever. I'll need to work again. Lily will go back to school. Normal life, whatever that means. And me? Ella met his eyes. Where do you fit in normal life, Alessandro? He was quiet for a long moment. Probably nowhere. That's not true. I'm not a normal man, Ella. I can't pick Lily up from school or come to parent-teacher conferences or do whatever ordinary fathers do. You're not her father. No, he agreed softly. But I'd like to be. Someday. If you'll let me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning and possibility and terror. Ella's throat tightened. She's already attached to you. If this falls apart. It won't. You can't know that. I know I'm not going anywhere. I know I love you, even though I probably shouldn't say that yet. And I know that Lily deserves a family, a real one, with people who choose her, who'll fight for her. Alessandro. I'm not asking you to marry me, he said quickly. Not yet. But I'm asking you to consider a future where this is permanent. Where you and Lily are mine to protect, and I'm yours to keep. Where we build something real together, outside of crisis and necessity. Ella's eyes burned. I'm still scared. Good. Fear means you're smart. He reached across the table, took her hand. But don't let it make your decisions for you. She squeezed his fingers, feeling the steady warmth of him. I need time. You have it. But time, it turned out, was something they didn't have as much of as she thought. The first crack appeared 3 weeks later. Ella was at the hospital with Lily when her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Is this Ella Monroe?" A man's voice, professional, cold. "Yes. Who is this?" "Detective James Rodriguez with the Organized Crime Unit. I'd like to speak with you about Alessandro Moetti." Her blood went cold. Lily was sleeping in the hospital bed, exhausted from treatment, oblivious to the conversation unfolding. "I don't know what you're talking about," Ella said carefully. "Ms. Monroe, we have surveillance footage of Mr. Moetti entering and leaving your residence multiple times. We know about the financial assistance he's provided. We know he's involved in your daughter's care. He's a friend helping us through a difficult time. That's all. Ms. Moetti is under investigation for money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Any association with him puts you and your daughter at risk." Ella's hands shook. "I need to go." "Wait, Ms. Monroe, please. We can offer you protection if you cooperate with our investigation. We can ensure Lily's treatment continues without Mr. Moetti's assistance. You don't have to be afraid of him." "I'm not afraid of him." "Then you should be. Men like Alessandro Moetti don't do things out of kindness. Whatever he's told you, whatever he's promised." Ella hung up. She sat there, phone clutched in her hand, heart hammering so hard she thought it might break free from her chest. Around her, the hospital continued its normal rhythm, nurses moving through halls, machines beeping, parents whispering to sick children. But Ella's world had just tilted on its axis. If your heart's racing too, take a breath, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more unforgettable love stories. That evening, she confronted Alessandro the moment he arrived at the apartment. "The police called me today." He went very still. "What did they say?" "That you're under investigation. That I'm at risk. That everything you've done for us is part of some larger scheme." She crossed her arms, defensive, terrified. "Is it true?" "Which part?" "All of it." Alessandro moved carefully into the apartment, closing the door behind him. "Yes, I'm under investigation. I'm always under investigation. The police have been trying to build a case against me for years. They won't succeed." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I'm very good at what I do, and I don't leave evidence." He approached her slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "But you and Lily were never part of that world. Everything I've done for you is separate, clean, legal. They said you're dangerous." "I am." "They said men like you don't help people without expecting something in return." "They are wrong." "Are they?" Ella's voice cracked. "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I've traded one kind of debt for another. Medical bills for what? What do you really want from us, Alessandro?" His expression hardened. "I want you safe. I want Lily healthy. I want to come home to you at night and not feel like the world is made of knives and darkness. That's what I want. Nothing more." "But the police." "The police want to use you to get to me. They'll promise you protection, support, anything you need, and then the moment you're no longer useful, you'll be alone again. Is that what you want?" Ella's head spun. "I don't know what I want. I just know that Lily is finally getting better, and now there are detectives calling me, and I feel like I'm standing in the middle of a war I don't understand." "You're not in the middle of anything," Alessandro said firmly. "You're under my protection. As long as you're with me, no one, not the police, not my enemies, not anyone, can touch you." "That's exactly what scares me. You talk about protection like it's safety, but it's not. It's control. It's a cage. Would you prefer to be unprotected?" "I'd prefer to have a choice." The words echoed in the sudden silence. Alessandro stared at her, something wounded flickering in his eyes before his expression went carefully blank. "You've always had a choice," he said quietly. "I told you that from the beginning. If you want to leave, leave. I won't stop you. The treatment continues. The apartment stays yours. The money is yours regardless. You owe me nothing." "Stop saying that." "Why? It's true." "Because it makes it harder." Tears streamed down her face now. "It would be easier if you were a monster. If you demanded things, threatened me, acted like every other powerful man I've heard about. But you don't. You're kind and patient, and you love Lily like she's yours, and you look at me like I'm something precious, and I don't know how to reconcile that with the fact that you're a criminal, Alessandro. A dangerous man who hurts people. I've never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. Who decides that? You. He had no answer. Ella sank onto the couch, exhausted. The detectives said they could help us. Protect us. Make sure Lily's treatment continues without your involvement. And you're considering it. It wasn't a question. I don't know, she whispered. I need time to think. Alessandro nodded slowly. He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Resignation, perhaps, or something deeper. Think all you need, he said. But know this, the police can't protect you the way I can. They can't love you the way I do. And when you're ready to admit that you feel the same way about me, that this terrifies you because it matters, not because it doesn't, I'll be waiting. He left without another word. Ella sat alone in the beautiful apartment he'd given her, surrounded by the safety he'd built around them, and felt more lost than she had in years. There are decisions that feel like falling, the moment when you step off solid ground and gravity takes over, and all you can do is trust that something will catch you before you hit bottom. Ella spent 3 days thinking. She didn't see Alessandro during that time, though she felt his presence everywhere. In the security she noticed for the first time, the way hospital staff checked on Lily more frequently than usual, the quiet watchfulness that surrounded them like an invisible wall. Detective Rodriguez called twice. She didn't answer. Lily asked about Alessandro every day. Where's Mr. Alessandro? Is he coming today? Did I do something wrong? No, baby, Ella assured her. You didn't do anything wrong. He's just busy. But he'll come back, right? Ella didn't know how to answer that. On the third night, after Lily had fallen asleep clutching Mr. Moretti and asking one more time when Alessandro would visit, Ella made her decision. She called the number on the business card, the one that always rang endlessly, except when he wanted it to be answered. This time, he picked up on the first ring. Alessandro. His voice was careful, controlled. Ella. I need to see you. I'm outside. She walked to the window and looked down. There, on the street below, was his car, a black sedan with tinted windows, idling at the curb. He'd been waiting. For 3 days, he'd been waiting. Something in her chest loosened. Come up, she said. 5 minutes later, he stood in her doorway, looking more uncertain than she'd ever seen him. Still impeccably dressed, still controlled, but there was a vulnerability in his eyes that hadn't been there before. You wanted to talk, he said. Ella stepped aside to let him in. They moved to the living room, sat on opposite ends of the couch, a careful distance that felt like miles. I talked to my mother, Ella began. She died when I was 19, but before that, she used to tell me that love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours. Alessandro listened without interrupting. You scare me, she continued. Not because I think you'll hurt me, but because I know what caring about you means. It means living with uncertainty. It means accepting that the man I love exists in a world I don't understand, doing things I can't condone. It means raising my daughter in the shadow of something dangerous. I know. But it also means Lily gets to live. It means I don't have to face everything alone anymore. It means coming home to someone who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't turn away. She met his eyes. The detective was right about one thing. Men like you don't help people without reason. But he was wrong about what your reason is. Alessandro's jaw tightened. What is my reason? You're trying to save Gabriella. Every single day, in every person you help, you're trying to make up for the fact that you couldn't save your sister. You've built this entire life around making sure no one else loses someone they love the way you did. His expression cracked, just slightly. And I understand that, Ella continued, her voice thick with emotion. Because I'm doing the same thing with Lily. Fighting against fate, refusing to accept that some things are beyond our control. We're both so desperate to protect the people we love that we'll do anything, legal or not, safe or not, to keep them alive. Ella. I'm not finished. She moved closer. I talked to Detective Rodriguez. I told him I wouldn't cooperate with his investigation. That whatever you've done, whatever you are, it doesn't change the fact that you saved my daughter's life. And that her voice broke, that I love you. Despite everything. Because of everything. Alessandro stared at her like she'd just offered him something he'd never dared hope for. You love me, he repeated, like he needed to hear it again to believe it. Terrifyingly much. She took his hand. So here's what I'm asking. Don't shut me out of your world completely. I'm not asking to know everything, but I can't live in willful ignorance either. I need to understand enough to make informed choices. For me, for Lily. Can you do that? He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. I can try. And I'll try to trust that when you say you'll keep us safe, you mean it, even when it scares me. I'll always mean it. Then we figure this out together. Not me on one side and you on the other, but both of us navigating the same complicated, messy, dangerous life. She squeezed his hand. Can we do that? Alessandro pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. Yes, he murmured against her hair. Yes, we can do that. They held each other for a long time, two broken people whose pieces somehow fit together despite all logic and reason. When they finally pulled apart, Ella smiled through her tears. Lily's been asking for you. I've been asking for her too. Then stay tonight. Read her a story in the morning. Let's try being, whatever this is. A family. The word hung in the air between them, fragile and powerful. Yeah, Ella whispered. A family. Alessandro kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. And for the first time since this all began, Ella felt like she could breathe. If this story has already found a place in your heart, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more stories that stay long after they end. The next morning, Lily woke to find Alessandro sitting beside her bed, reading Mr. Moretti's latest adventure, something about a very brave rabbit who'd learned to trust a fierce but kind wolf. You came back. Lily threw her arms around his neck, nearly knocking him over. Alessandro laughed, a real laugh, full and unguarded, and hugged her back. I promised I would, didn't I? You did. I knew you would. Mama said you were busy, but I knew. Ella watched from the doorway, her heart so full it hurt. Mr. Alessandro, Lily said seriously, pulling back to look at him. Are you going to marry my mama? Alessandro glanced at Ella, his eyes asking permission. Ella nodded, just barely. Someday, Alessandro told Lily. If she'll have me. She will. She looks at you the way she looks at me, like you're the best thing ever. Well, you are the best thing ever. Your mother and I are just lucky you let us be part of your life. Lily giggled, then grew serious again. Does this mean you're going to be my dad? Alessandro's breath caught. He looked at Ella again, and she saw the question, the hope, the fear of overstepping. Ella came into the room, sat on the other side of Lily's bed. Would you want that, baby? Would you want Mr. Alessandro to be part of our family? Lily nodded so hard her curls bounced. Yes. Then I'd have a mama and a dad and Mr. Moretti, and we'd be a whole family. Then that's what we'll be, Ella said softly. A whole family. Alessandro took both their hands, holding them like they were the most precious things in the world. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Ella believed that everything might actually be okay. Some transformations happen slowly, like seasons changing, so gradually you don't notice until you look back and realize everything is different. The weeks after Ella's decision unfolded like that. Alessandro became a fixture in their lives, not just visiting but present, woven into the fabric of their days. He learned Lily's medication schedule by heart. He memorized which nurses were kind and which needed watching. He discovered that Lily liked her sandwiches cut into triangles and her stories told with voices, and that she was terrified of thunderstorms but loved rain. He learned Ella too, how she took her coffee, which silences meant she needed space and which meant she needed holding, the way her hands shook when she was scared but her voice stayed steady. He learned to read the small tells that revealed when she was overwhelmed, and he became expert at taking weight off her shoulders without making her feel diminished. And Ella learned him in return, She learned that Alessandro woke before dawn, that he read constantly, philosophy and history and poetry she wouldn't have expected. She learned he was fluent in 4 languages but sang terribly off-key. She learned the scars on his body, each one a story he told her quietly in the dark, trusting her with the truth of his violence and his survival. She learned that his world, the one she'd been so afraid of, was more complicated than she'd imagined. My organization, Alessandro explained one evening after Lily had gone to sleep, exists in the spaces between legal and illegal. We move money for people who need discretion. We provide security for those who can't trust police. We solve problems that courts can't or won't address. You make it sound noble. It's not. But it's not pure evil either. He poured them both wine. I've hurt people who deserved it. Men who abused their families, corrupt officials who preyed on the vulnerable, criminals who broke codes even other criminals respect. But I've also protected neighborhoods, kept small businesses safe, given people opportunities they wouldn't otherwise have. The detective said you were being investigated for murder. I was. The man in question trafficked children. He's dead now. I won't apologize for that. Ella should have been horrified. Should have run. Instead, she thought of Lily, small and vulnerable and precious, and understood exactly why Alessandro had done what he'd done. I'm not asking you to approve, Alessandro continued. Just to understand that my world operates by different rules. That I do what I do to survive, to protect, to build something better than what I came from. And the money you've given us, where does it come from? Legitimate investments, mostly. Real estate, security consulting, import-export. Not everything I do is illegal, Ella. Most of it isn't. But some of it is. Yes. She was quiet for a long time, processing. Will it ever end? Can you ever just walk away? Alessandro's expression was sad. Men like me don't retire. We either die or we get arrested. Those are the only exits. That's not acceptable. It's reality. Then we change reality. Ella set down her wine. If we're doing this, really doing this, building a life together, then we need to plan for Lily's future. For our future. Not just next week or next month, but years from now. And that means finding a way for you to exist outside of constant danger. Ella. I'm serious, Alessandro. I won't raise my daughter waiting for the phone call that says you're dead or arrested. I won't teach her to love someone who might disappear any moment. If you want this family, you need to want it enough to fight for a different ending. He stared at her, something like wonder in his eyes. You're asking me to go legitimate. I'm asking you to try. For us. For Lily. For yourself. It's not that simple. I know. But if you built this empire from nothing, you can build something else. Something that doesn't end in violence. Alessandro reached for her hand. You make it sound possible. Because it is. Not easy, but possible. He brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. I'll try. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'll try. It was enough. Lily's treatment progressed better than anyone had hoped. The experimental therapy was working, her blood counts improving week by week, her energy returning gradually but steadily. The doctors started using words like remission and recovery, and Ella began to believe in futures she'd thought were lost. Alessandro was there for all of it, the good appointments and the bad ones, the days Lily bounced with energy and the days she could barely lift her head. He never flinched, never wavered, never treated Lily like she was fragile despite her illness. You're good at this, Ella told him one afternoon, watching him play checkers with Lily in the hospital room. At losing to a 6-year-old. At being a dad. He went still, then smiled, one of those rare, unguarded smiles that transformed his entire face. I'm learning from the best. Me. Huh. He nodded toward Lily, who was carefully moving her checker piece with intense concentration. She's teaching me what matters. And Ella fell in love with him all over again. But peace, she was learning, was always temporary. The first real threat came on a Tuesday. Ella was shopping for groceries, something blessedly normal, wonderfully ordinary, when she noticed the man following her. He was subtle about it, staying back, pretending to shop, But Ella had developed instincts over the past months. She knew when she was being watched. She paid for her groceries quickly, heart hammering, and stepped outside. The man followed. She pulled out her phone, called Alessandro. "I'm being followed." "Where are you?" His voice went sharp, focused. "The market on 7th Street. Stay in public. I'm sending someone. 2 minutes." Ella stood near the entrance, clutching her grocery bags, trying to look calm. The man approached, middle-aged, nondescript, with cold eyes. "Ella Monroe." She didn't answer. "I have a message for your boyfriend. Tell Moetti that Victor Kozlov sends his regards. And tell him that pretty girls and sick kids make easy targets." The threat was clear, brutal. Ella's hands shook. Who? But the man was already walking away. 60 seconds later, a black SUV pulled up. 2 of Alessandro's men, one she recognized from the hospital, stepped out. "Ms. Monroe, we need to take you home. Now." She got in the car, without arguing. Alessandro met them at the apartment building, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. "Lily?" Ella asked immediately. "Safe. She's at the hospital with triple security. No one gets near her." He pulled Ella into his arms. "Are you hurt?" "No. Just scared." She repeated what the man had said. Alessandro's jaw tightened. "Victor Kozlov is a rival. We've been negotiating territory. This is his way of pushing back. He threatened Lily." "I know." "Alessandro." "He won't touch her. He won't touch you. I promise." He pulled back to look at her. "But this is what I warned you about. This is the danger of my world bleeding into yours." Ella's fear transformed into something harder. "Then end it." "What?" "End it. Whatever negotiation you're having with this Kozlov person, finish it. Give him what he wants, take what you need, but end it. Because I won't live like this, and neither will Lily. It's not that simple. Make it simple." Her voice rose. "You said you'd protect us. So protect us. Do whatever you need to do, but make sure that man never comes near us again." Alessandro stared at her, something fierce and proud in his expression. "Okay. Okay. You're right. This ends now." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Set up a meeting with Kozlov. Tonight. And make it clear, if he refuses, we go to war." He hung up, then cupped Ella's face in his hands. "I won't let anything happen to you or Lily. Whatever it takes. Even if it means doing things you'll regret. I've done worse for less important reasons." She believed him. That night, Alessandro left to meet with Kozlov. He kissed Ella goodbye like he was going to war, which, she supposed, he was. "Come back to us," she whispered. "Always." Ella stayed at the hospital with Lily, surrounded by security, waiting. The hours stretched endlessly. She read to her daughter, played games, pretended everything was fine while her stomach churned with anxiety. Her phone rang at midnight. "It's done," Alessandro said. His voice was tired, rough. "Kozlov's backing off. He got what he wanted. I got assurances. You and Lily are off limits." "What did it cost you?" "Less than you're worth." "Alessandro." "I'm coming to the hospital. I need to see you. Both of you." He arrived 20 minutes later. There was blood on his shirt, concealed beneath his jacket, but Ella saw it. She didn't ask. Didn't need to. She just held him while Lily slept, and felt the violence he'd done for them, and loved him despite it, or maybe because of it. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For choosing us." Alessandro pulled back to look at her, his eyes intense. "There was never a choice, Ella. It's always been you. From the moment I saw you in that diner, it's been you." And Ella knew, with absolute certainty, that whatever came next, whatever dangers or challenges or impossible situations, they would face them together. There is a particular kind of waiting that comes after crisis, the slow exhale when the immediate danger has passed but the world still feels unstable, like standing on ground that might shift again any moment. Ella lived in that space for weeks after the incident with Kozlov. Alessandro had been true to his word. Extra security appeared, subtle but present. The threat stopped. Life returned to something resembling normal, if normal could include armed bodyguards trailing them at careful distances and Alessandro's careful monitoring of every situation. But something had changed in Ella. The fear hadn't broken her. It had sharpened her. She'd spent so long being reactive, responding to medical emergencies, financial disasters, life throwing one crisis after another, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to make proactive choices. Now, with Lily's health improving and Alessandro's protection surrounding them, Ella found herself thinking about futures instead of just surviving the present. "I want to go back to school," she told Alessandro one evening. They were cooking dinner together, a routine they'd fallen into, these domestic moments that felt revolutionary for a man who'd spent most of his life alone. Alessandro was chopping vegetables with the same precision he brought to everything, while Ella seasoned chicken. He glanced up. "What would you study?" "Nursing, maybe. Or social work. Something that helps people like us, families dealing with medical crises who don't know how to navigate the system." She stirred the pan. "I learned so much these past months. About insurance, treatment options, patient advocacy. I could use that. Help other parents who are drowning the way I was." Alessandro set down his knife, turned to face her fully. "That's a beautiful idea." "You think so?" "I think you'd be extraordinary at it. You already are." He moved closer. "What do you need to make it happen?" "Time, mostly. Lily's still got months of treatment ahead. And money, tuition isn't cheap." "Money isn't an issue." "Alessandro. Don't." He held up a hand. "Let me do this. You've given me so much, a reason to be better, a family to protect, a future to plan for. Let me invest in yours." Ella's eyes burned. "You've already given us everything." "Not everything. Not yet." He pulled her close. "I want to give you a life where you're not just surviving. Where you have dreams and goals and possibilities. Where Lily grows up seeing her mother thrive, not just endure." She kissed him then, deep and grateful and full of love. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips. "For what?" "For seeing me. Not just the struggling waitress or the desperate mother, but me. The person I want to become." Alessandro smiled. "That person was always there. You just needed the space to remember her." Lily's recovery continued to defy expectations. By month 6, her doctors were cautiously optimistic. The cancer was in remission. Her strength was returning. They started talking about discharge dates and follow-up protocols, and a future that extended beyond the next week or month. "Can I go to school again?" Lily asked during one appointment, her voice hopeful but uncertain. The doctors smiled. "Soon. Let's get through the next round of tests, but I don't see why not." Lily turned to Ella, her eyes shining. "Mama, did you hear? I can go to school." "I heard, baby." Ella's voice cracked with emotion. "And Mr. Alessandro can take me on my first day, right? Like real dads do." Alessandro, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, moved forward. He knelt beside Lily's chair, taking her small hand in his much larger one. "I'd be honored to take you," he said seriously. "Though you might have to explain to me what first graders do these days. It's been a while since I was in school." Lily giggled. "You're silly. First graders do reading and math and art. And we have recess, which is the best part." "That does sound like the best part. Will you play with me at recess?" "I don't think parents are allowed at recess, sweetheart." "Oh." Lily's face fell slightly. "But you'll be there at drop-off and pick-up. Every single day. Promise." Alessandro looked at Ella, something vulnerable in his eyes, silently asking if he had the right to make such promises. Ella nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise," Alessandro told Lily solemnly. "Every single day." That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Alessandro and Ella sat on the balcony of the apartment, looking out at the city lights. "She called me a real dad today," Alessandro said quietly. "She did. I've never been anyone's father before." "You're learning fast." He was quiet for a moment. "My own father was complicated. Loving but harsh. He taught me strength and survival, but not tenderness. Not patience. I never thought I'd have a chance to do it differently." Ella took his hand. You're already doing it differently. You show up. You listen. You let her be a child, even when she's going through things no child should face. I'm terrified I'll fail her. Welcome to parenting. That terror never goes away. Alessandro laughed softly. That's not reassuring. It's honest. She leaned her head on his shoulder. But here's what I know, Lily loves you. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Because when she calls for you, you come. That's all any child really needs, someone who shows up. I'll always show up for her. For both of you. I know. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe below them. Marry me, Alessandro said suddenly. Ella's breath caught. What? Marry me. He turned to face her, his expression serious. I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I'm sure about this, Ella. About you, about Lily, about us. I want to make this official. Legal. Permanent. Alessandro. You don't have to answer now. Think about it. But I needed you to know that this isn't temporary for me. This is forever. Ella's heart hammered. You're serious. Completely. We've only been together a few months. I've known you were it for me since that first night in the diner. Everything after has just been confirmation. But your world, your work. I'm making changes. Real ones. Pulling back from the dangerous operations. Transitioning to legitimate businesses. It'll take time, but I'm doing it. For you, for Lily, for the future we desire. Ella stared at him, this impossibly complicated man who'd somehow become her entire world. Yes, she whispered. Alessandro blinked. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Not because it's sensible or safe or simple, but because I love you. Because you love us. Because when I imagine my future, you're in every part of it. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. You've made me the happiest man alive, he murmured into her hair. Even though I come with complications. Especially because of that. We're both complicated, Ella. We match. She laughed through her tears. We do, don't we? Perfectly. Before we close this chapter, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Every small gesture helps the next story find its way to you. They told Lily the next morning. She'd been drawing at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas, her hair a wild cloud around her face. When Alessandro and Ella sat down on either side of her, she looked up with curiosity. Is something wrong? She asked, her voice small. No, baby. Everything's right, Ella said softly. We wanted to tell you something important. What is it? Alessandro took a breath. I asked your Mima to marry me. And she said yes. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? For a moment, Lily was absolutely still. Then she launched herself at Alessandro, wrapping her thin arms around his neck with surprising strength. Does this mean you'll be my real dad? Like, forever. Alessandro's voice was thick with emotion. If you'll have me. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Lily pulled back, her face glowing. Can I call you Daddy? Alessandro looked at Ella, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Ella nodded, unable to speak. You can call me whatever you want, sweetheart, Alessandro told Lily. Daddy, Papa, Alessandro, anything that feels right to you. Daddy, Lily decided firmly. Because you're going to be my real daddy now. And just like that, the last piece fell into place. The wedding happened on a Wednesday in late autumn, when the leaves were turning gold and the air carried that particular crispness that felt like possibility. They'd chosen small, intimate, just Lily and a handful of people Alessandro trusted. No grand ceremony, no elaborate production. Just a judge, a simple exchange of vows, and the quiet promise of forever. Ella wore a cream dress she'd found on sale, simple and elegant. Alessandro wore one of his perfectly tailored suits. Lily wore pale pink and carried flowers she'd insisted on picking herself, her head still covered with a soft scarf, her eyes bright with joy. Do you, Alessandro Moetti, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Ella Monroe, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Ella looked at Alessandro, this dangerous, complicated, surprisingly tender man who'd saved her daughter's life and taught her heart to hope again, and spoke the truth. I do. When they kissed, Lily cheered so loudly the judge laughed. I now pronounce you husband and wife, he said warmly. And I believe someone else wants to make this official. Alessandro knelt beside Lily. He'd prepared something for this moment. Papers that Ella hadn't known about, legal documents that he'd been working on for weeks. Lily, he said seriously, holding her small hands in his. I know I'm not the father you were born with, but I'd like to be the father you choose. If you're willing, I'd like to adopt you. Make you my daughter legally, not just in my heart. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? But only if you want that. I want it. She threw her arms around him. I want you to be my real daddy. Alessandro held her tight, his shoulders shaking slightly with emotion. Ella watched them through her own tears, feeling her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. The adoption papers were signed that day. Lily became Lily Moretti, and the family that had formed from crisis and choice became legal, official, permanent. They went home to the apartment, their home now, all three of them, and ate takeout pizza on the floor because Lily insisted it was more fun that way. They watched movies and told stories and laughed until their sides hurt. And when Lily finally fell asleep, curled up between them on the couch, Alessandro and Ella looked at each other over their daughter's head and understood that they'd built something real. Something that couldn't be taken away. Thank you, Alessandro whispered. For what? For taking a chance on me. For trusting me with both of you. For making me believe I could be more than what I was. Ella reached across Lily's sleeping form to touch his face. You were always more. You just needed someone to see it. I love you. I love you too. The months that followed were the happiest of Ella's life. Lily's health continued to improve. She started school in January, nervous but excited, holding Alessandro's hand so tightly he joked his fingers might fall off. He walked her to her classroom that first day, knelt down to her level, and spoke quietly so only she could hear. Ella watched from the doorway, her heart full. What did you tell her? She asked when Alessandro returned. That she's the bravest person I know. That she's going to do amazing things. And that I'll be right here when school's done, waiting to hear about her day. You're really good at this. I'm learning from her. Ella started school herself that spring, nursing program, part-time, manageable alongside Lily's needs. Alessandro had been right. She was extraordinary at it. Her professors noted her natural compassion, her intuitive understanding of patient psychology, her ability to explain complex medical concepts in ways that felt human and accessible. She studied late into the night, Alessandro often joining her at the kitchen table with his own work, the slow, careful process of transitioning his empire into something legitimate. He was consulting now, security and risk assessment for corporations that needed discretion. The money was legal, the work was challenging, and the danger had diminished significantly. How does it feel? Ella asked one evening, watching him review contracts instead of whatever violent business he'd handled before. Strange, he admitted. But right. Like I'm finally becoming the person Gabriella would have wanted me to be. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. Life fell into rhythms that felt almost normal. School runs and homework sessions, hospital checkups that grew increasingly routine, family dinners and weekend outings. They went to parks and museums and once, memorably, to a carnival where Alessandro won Lily an enormous stuffed bear by demonstrating improbable accuracy at the ring toss. You're hustling carnival games now. Ella teased. Just using my skills for good instead of less good. I'm not sure carnival games count as good. They do when they make our daughter smile like that. And Lily did smile, constantly, brilliantly, with the unguarded joy of a child who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side stronger. But happiness, Ella had learned, was never permanent. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, while Ella was in class and Alessandro was in meetings and Lily was at school, supervised and safe and surrounded by security. Mrs. Moetti. The principal's voice was strained. This is Margaret Chen from Riverside Elementary. There's been an incident. Ella's blood went cold. What kind of incident? Is Lily okay? She's fine physically, But there was an altercation. Another student's father showed up during pickup, very agitated, demanding to speak with you. He was shouting about Mr. Moetti, making accusations. "Where's Lily?" "She's in my office with our security guard. She's safe, but she's scared. The man has been removed from campus, but I think you should come as soon as possible." Ella was already running to her car. "I'm on my way. Call my husband. Tell him what happened." "Already done. He's en route as well." Ella made the 20-minute drive in 12, her heart hammering. She'd known this day might come, the moment Alessandro's past collided with their present, when being a Moetti meant something more dangerous than just a name. She just hadn't expected it to come through their daughter's school. She found Alessandro already there, standing in the principal's office with an expression that would have terrified anyone who didn't know him. Lily was pressed against his side, her face tear-stained but her grip on his jacket fierce. "Daddy," she said when she saw Ella. "Someone was yelling about us. About you and Daddy. Bad things." Ella dropped to her knees, pulling Lily into her arms. "I know, baby. I'm so sorry you had to hear that." He said Daddy was a bad man. "But that's not true, right? Daddy's good. He helps people." "Yes, sweetheart. Daddy's good." Alessandro's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The principal, an older woman with kind eyes and steel in her voice, explained the situation. "The man's name is Robert Lawson. His child attends 3rd grade here. Apparently, Mr. Lawson has some history with your family." "Not with us personally," Alessandro said, his voice carefully controlled. "But yes, our organizations have been in conflict. He's been under investigation for fraud. I provided evidence to the authorities." "I see." The principal folded her hands. "Mr. Moetti, I need to be direct with you. Several parents have expressed concerns about your daughter attending this school, given your reputation. Today's incident has amplified those concerns." Ella's stomach dropped. "You're asking us to leave." "I'm asking you to consider what's best for Lily. This is a small, close-knit community. If parents don't feel safe—" "My daughter has every right to attend this school," Alessandro said, his voice deadly quiet. "She's done nothing wrong. And I've broken no laws." "I understand that. But perception matters, especially where children are involved. So my child should be punished because of who her father is." "No one's being punished, Mr. Moetti. I'm simply suggesting that perhaps a different environment—" "We're not leaving," Ella interjected, her voice firm. "Lily loves this school. She's made friends. She's thriving. We won't uproot her because some parents are uncomfortable." The principal sighed. "Mrs. Moetti, I sympathize. But I have to think of all the children." "Then think of Lily. Think of what it teaches her if we run away the moment things get difficult. Think of what it teaches the other children about judging people by their families instead of their actions." The room fell silent. Finally, the principal nodded slowly. "You're right. Lily stays. But Mr. Moetti, I need your assurance that situations like today won't become a pattern. That your business won't put our students at risk." "You have my word," Alessandro said. "Lily's safety, and the safety of every child here, is paramount. What happened today won't happen again." "Good." The principal stood. "Then we'll address this with the parent community. Make it clear that Lily is welcome, and that discrimination based on family background won't be tolerated." They took Lily home early that day. She was quiet in the car, processing what had happened, trying to understand why someone would yell about her father, why other parents whispered. "Daddy," she asked finally, her voice small, "are you bad?" Alessandro pulled the car over, turned in his seat to face her. "I've made mistakes, Lily. Done things I'm not proud of. But I'm trying every day to be better, to be the kind of man you can be proud to call your father. Do you understand?" "I think so. Like how I sometimes do things Mama doesn't like, but she still loves me." "Exactly like that." "Then I still love you, even if you made mistakes." Alessandro's eyes burned. "Thank you, sweetheart." "But Daddy—" "Yes. Can you try not to make the kind of mistakes that make people yell at school? Those are scary." Despite everything, Alessandro smiled. I'll do my best. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ella and Alessandro sat in their bedroom, processing the day's events. This is what I was afraid of, Ella said quietly. That your past would follow us. That Lily would pay the price for our choices. I know. And I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me the truth. Is Robert Lawson dangerous? Could he come after us? Alessandro was quiet for a moment. He could try. But he won't succeed. I've already put measures in place, increased security at the school, surveillance on Lawson, warnings sent through appropriate channels. He's angry and scared, but he's not suicidal. He won't push this further. How can you be sure? Because I know men like him. They bluster and threaten, but when faced with real consequences, they back down. And I've made the consequences very clear. Ella didn't ask what those consequences were. What if this keeps happening? She asked instead. What if every time we try to build something normal, your past shows up to tear it down? Alessandro pulled her into his arms. Then we keep building. Over and over, as many times as it takes. Because this, you, me, Lily, this is worth fighting for. Worth enduring whispers and judgment and whatever else comes our way. I'm tired of fighting. I know. But you're not fighting alone anymore. We're in this together. All three of us. Ella pressed her face against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady and sure. Promise me something, she whispered. Anything. Promise me that when Lily asks about your past someday, really asks, when she's old enough to understand, you'll tell her the truth. Not to spare her, but to show her that people can change. That mistakes don't define us forever. I promise. They held each other in the quiet darkness, two people who'd found each other in the worst circumstances and built something beautiful despite everything working against them. And in the room down the hall, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of playgrounds and art class, and the father who'd promised to always pick her up from school, no matter what anyone said. Time has a way of softening sharp edges, turning crisis into memory, transforming the unbearable into simply what happened once, long ago. 2 years passed. Lily turned 8 years old in the spring, her cancer firmly in remission, her body strong and healthy. She'd grown tall, all legs and wild curls and opinions about everything. She played soccer and loved reading and had a best friend named Emma who thought having Alessandro Moetti as a father was basically like having a superhero dad, but cooler because he's real. Ella graduated from her nursing program with honors. She took a position at the same hospital where Lily had been treated, working specifically with families navigating pediatric cancer. She was exceptional at it, her combination of medical knowledge and lived experience creating a bridge of understanding that textbooks couldn't teach. And Alessandro had slowly, carefully transformed himself into something resembling a legitimate businessman. It hadn't been easy. He'd had to burn bridges, sever relationships, walk away from opportunities that would have made him wealthier but cost him his family. But he'd done it, methodically and thoroughly, until his empire was built on contracts and consulting instead of fear and force. He still carried his past like old scars, visible if you knew where to look, but no longer actively bleeding. The incident at Lily's school had been an anomaly, not a pattern. Robert Lawson had backed down after Alessandro's intervention, and while some parents remained wary, Lily had carved out her place among her classmates through sheer force of personality. She was bright and kind and funny, and eventually, most people forgot to judge her by her father's reputation. But not everyone forgot. Detective James Rodriguez never closed his investigation into Alessandro Moetti. He kept watching, kept building his case, kept hoping for one mistake, one slip, one piece of evidence that would finally give him what he needed. The call came on a Wednesday evening. Alessandro was helping Lily with her math homework, fractions, which she hated, while Ella prepared dinner. The scene was so blessedly ordinary that when Alessandro's phone rang and his expression changed, the contrast felt jarring. "I need to take this," he said, his voice carefully neutral. Ella watched him step onto the balcony, phone pressed to his ear, his shoulders tensing in ways she'd learned to read. When he came back inside, his face was pale. "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go watch TV for a bit? Mama and I need to talk." "But my homework." "We'll finish it later. I promise." Lily, sensing the shift in mood, nodded and disappeared into her room. Alessandro turned to Ella. Rodriguez is bringing me in for questioning. Tomorrow morning. He says he has new evidence. Ella's stomach dropped. What kind of evidence? He wouldn't say. But his tone, this is serious, Ella. But you've been clean for 2 years. Everything you do now is legal. The investigation spans a decade. They are not looking at who I am now, they are building a case about who I was. Can they do that? Can they arrest you for things that happened years ago? If they have evidence, yes. Ella moved to him, took his hands. Then we'll fight this. We'll get lawyers, I've already called my attorney. He'll meet me at the station. Alessandro cupped her face. But Ella, you need to be prepared. If they have what they think they have, I might be arrested. I might go to trial. His voice broke. I might go to prison. The world seemed to tilt. No, Ella whispered. No, we just got here. We just built this life. They can't take you away now. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You didn't do anything, she stopped. You did do things. Years ago. Things that could send you to prison. Yes. Things you did before you knew us. Before you changed. The law doesn't care about change. Only evidence. Ella's mind raced. Then we run. Take Lily and disappear. You have resources, connections. And make our daughter a fugitive. Teach her that when things get hard, we run. Alessandro shook his head. No. I face this. If I'm guilty of crimes, I pay for them. That's what being a good man means, owning your mistakes. Even if it destroys our family. Even then. Ella wanted to scream. To rage against the unfairness of it. That Alessandro had spent 2 years building something better, only to have his past reach forward and snatch it all away. But she understood his position, his need to model integrity for Lily, his refusal to make their daughter complicit in fleeing justice. What do we tell her? Ella asked finally. The truth. That I made mistakes before I knew her, and now I have to answer for them. That sometimes doing the right thing is hard and scary, but it's still right. If your heart's racing too, take a breath, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more unforgettable love stories. They told Lily that night. She listened with the serious expression she wore when trying to understand grown-up things, her small hand holding Mr. Moetti, who was worn from years of love and comfort. Are you going to jail, Daddy? She asked, her voice wavering. I don't know yet, sweetheart. Maybe. The police want to ask me questions about things I did a long time ago. If they decide I broke the law, then yes, I might have to go to jail for a while. Tears filled Lily's eyes. But you're good now. You help people. Can't they see that? The law doesn't work that way. Sometimes people have to face consequences for their actions, even if they've changed. That's called accountability. I don't like accountability. Despite everything, Alessandro smiled. Me neither, kiddo. How long would you be gone? I don't know. Maybe months. Maybe years. It depends what the judge decides. Years. Lily's voice broke. But I'll be grown up by then. I'll miss everything. School plays and soccer games and, she couldn't continue. Alessandro pulled her into his arms, holding her while she sobbed. I know this is scary, he murmured into her hair. And I know it's not fair. But I need you to be brave, Lily. Can you do that? Can you be brave for me? I don't want to be brave. I want you to stay. I want that too. More than anything. Then don't go. Just don't go talk to the police. I have to, sweetheart. Because running away would make things worse. And I need to teach you that when we make mistakes, we own them. We face them. That's what good people do. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Ella watched this exchange from the doorway, her heart shattering into pieces she wasn't sure could be reassembled. That night, after Lily finally cried herself to sleep, Ella and Alessandro lay in bed, not talking, just holding each other. If this goes bad, Alessandro said finally, I need you to know some things. Don't. Not yet. Ella, please. Let me say this. She nodded against his chest. Everything's in order. The house, Lily's medical trust, your education fund, all of it is secure and legal. My attorney has instructions. You'll be taken care of, both of you, no matter what happens to me. I don't care about money. I know, but I care about making sure you're not alone. That Lily has everything she needs to thrive. She needs her father. And if that's not possible, she needs to know he loved her more than anything in this world. That being her dad was the best thing I ever did. That she made me better just by existing. Ella's tears soaked his shirt. This isn't fair. No. But we've built something beautiful anyway. These years with you and Lily, they've been the happiest of my life. Whatever comes next, no one can take that away. I love you. I love you too. Always. The next morning came too soon. Alessandro dressed carefully, as if preparing for battle. He made Lily pancakes shaped like stars, walked her to school, held her hand just a little longer than usual. Be good for Mama, he told her at the classroom door. Come back, Daddy, she whispered. I'll do everything I can. Then Ella drove him to the police station, her hands tight on the wheel, her heart hammering against her ribs. Thank you, Alessandro said as they pulled into the parking lot. For everything. For taking a chance on me, for loving me despite everything, for giving me a family. You've been my salvation, Ella. And you've been mine. They kissed one last time, gentle and desperate and full of all the things they couldn't say. Then Alessandro walked into the police station, and Ella drove home alone, feeling like half of herself had just been ripped away. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. Ella knew because she sat in the parking lot the entire time, unable to leave, unable to move, watching the building like she could somehow will Alessandro to emerge free and clear if she just didn't look away. His attorney had texted once, * cooperating fully. That's all I can say. *. It wasn't enough, but it was all she had. When Alessandro finally emerged, he looked exhausted in a way she'd never seen, not physically tired but spiritually drained, like something essential had been carved out of him. He got into the car, without speaking. Ella didn't press. She just drove them home, her hand finding his, holding on like he might disappear if she let go. Inside the apartment, Alessandro sank onto the couch and stared at nothing. They have recordings, he said finally. From 8 years ago. Conversations about money laundering, about bribing officials, about, he stopped, swallowed hard. About ordering someone hurt. Not killed, but hurt. A warning to someone who'd cross me. Ella's blood went cold. How did they get recordings? Someone in my organization turned informant. Wore a wire for months, collected evidence, built a case. Rodriguez has been sitting on it, waiting for the right moment to move. And now he's moving. Now he's moving. Alessandro looked at her, his eyes hollow. They are offering a deal. Plead guilty to conspiracy charges, testify against others in my former organization, serve 5 years with possibility of parole after 3. 5 years. It's better than the 20-eyed face if this goes to trial and they use everything. But you've changed. You're not that person anymore. The Lord doesn't care. The crime's happened. The evidence exists. I did what they say I did, Ella. Maybe not all of it, maybe not as bad as they are claiming, but enough. More than enough. She felt like she was drowning. What are you going to do? My attorney says take the deal. That fighting this will destroy us, financially, emotionally. That 3 to 5 years is survivable, but 20 is losing everything. And what do you say? Alessandro was quiet for a long time. I say I want to fight. I want to argue that I've changed, that I've made amends, that I deserve a second chance. But I look at Lily's face this morning, and I think, 5 years. She'll be 13 when I get out. A teenager, but still my daughter. Still salvageable. Nothing about her needs salvaging. No. But my relationship with her does. If I go to trial, if I lose, if I get 20 years, his voice broke. She'll be 28 when I'm released. A grown woman I'll barely know. And you? I'll wait. That's not fair to ask. You're not asking. I'm telling you. 5 years or 20, I'll wait. Ella. We're married, Alessandro. For better or worse, remember? This is the worst part. But I'm not going anywhere. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I'm sorry, he whispered. For all of this. For the life I lived before. For the choices that brought us here. Don't apologize for the past. Just promise me you'll come home. However long it takes, promise me you'll come home. I promise. The decision was made. Alessandro would take the plea deal. He'd plead guilty, serve his time, and try to rebuild when he was released. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Time for paperwork, for final negotiations, for saying goodbye. Ella used those weeks to prepare Lily as much as anyone could prepare an 8-year-old for her father going to prison. They talked about it every day, small conversations that built understanding piece by piece. Ella found children's books about incarceration, spoke with Lily's school counselor, created a calendar where they could mark off days until visits. Prison isn't like in movies, Ella explained one evening. It's not scary and violent everywhere. It's more like a really strict boarding school for grown-ups. Daddy will have a room and a job, and he'll be safe. But he won't be here. No, he won't be here. For 5 whole years. Maybe less. If he's really good, they might let him come home earlier. Lily was quiet, processing. Will we visit him? As often as they let us. Probably once a month. That's not enough. I know, baby. But it's what we have. Mama. Lily's voice was small. Is it my fault? Did Daddy do bad things to save me when I was sick? Ella's heart broke. No, sweetheart. No, this has nothing to do with you. Daddy made mistakes before he even knew you existed. You are the best thing that ever happened to him. You and your love made him want to be better. Never doubt that. But if I wasn't sick, maybe he wouldn't have met us. Maybe he'd still be doing bad things and never get caught. Ella pulled Lily into her lap. You can't think like that. What happened, happened. We can't change the past. We can only decide how we move forward. I want to move forward with Daddy. We will. Just not the way we'd hoped. Alessandro spent his final weeks trying to fit a lifetime of fatherhood into each moment. He helped with homework every night, even when he clearly didn't understand the new way they taught math. He read bedtime stories with voices and sound effects until Lily laughed herself silly. He recorded videos for the future, messages for birthdays he'd miss, advice for challenges she'd face, reassurances that his absence didn't mean his love had disappeared. When you're scared, he told her in one video, remember that you're the bravest person I know. You fought cancer and won. You can fight anything. When you're sad, he said in another, call Mama. She's the strongest person in the world, and she'll help you through it. When you're angry at me, he said in a third, that's okay. I'm angry at me too. But know that every single day I'm gone, I'm thinking of you and Mama, and wishing I could be there. The night before the hearing, Alessandro barely slept. He lay in bed with Ella, memorizing the feel of her, the way she breathed, the warmth of her skin, the rhythm of her heartbeat against his chest. I'm going to miss everything, he whispered. Lily's school plays and soccer games. Your graduation ceremony when you get your advanced degree. Holidays and birthdays and all the ordinary moments that make life worth living. We'll save them for you. Tell you about every single one when you call. Send you pictures and letters and videos. You won't miss everything, just the physical presence. That's the most important part. No, the most important part is knowing you're loved. That we're waiting for you. That when you come home, we'll still be here. Alessandro kissed her then, deep and aching and full of goodbye. They made love that night with desperate tenderness, both of them trying to memorize each other, to carry this moment through the years ahead. I love you, Ella whispered afterward, her face wet with tears. I love you too, more than I thought I could love anything. Come back to us. Nothing could stop me. The morning came too soon. They dressed in silence, moving through routines that felt surreal. Alessandro put on a suit, armor for what was coming. Ella wore her favorite dress, the one he'd always said made her look beautiful. Lily wore her soccer uniform. Why are you wearing that, baby? Ella asked gently. So Daddy remembers I play soccer now. So he knows what I look like when I'm playing. So when he comes home, he'll know to come to my games. Alessandro knelt in front of her, his eyes red. I'll remember everything about you, he promised. Every freckle, every smile, every dream you've ever told me. You're written on my heart, Lily. Distance can't erase that. I'm going to write you letters. Every single week. Mama said I can. I'll read every word. Probably 100 times each. And I'll draw pictures. I'll hang them in my room. Make it beautiful. And when you come home. When I come home, we'll celebrate. Pizza and movies and whatever you want. Deal? Deal. They held each other for a long moment, father and daughter, bound by love and time and choices neither of them had made. Then Ella drove them to the courthouse. The courtroom was smaller than Ella expected, paneled and dark with that absorbed light, filled with hard benches and the weight of judgment. Alessandro sat at the defendant's table with his attorney, his back straight, his hands folded. He'd told Ella she didn't have to come, that Lily certainly shouldn't be there, but Ella had insisted. You stood by us when things were impossible, she'd said. We stand by you now. So they sat in the gallery, Ella, Lily, and a handful of people from Alessandro's past who still believed in redemption. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The people versus Alessandro Moetti, the clock announced. And so it began. The proceedings were technical, procedural, lawyers speaking in language designed to distance emotion from outcome. Alessandro pled guilty to conspiracy charges related to money laundering and extortion. The evidence was presented. Recordings, financial documents, testimony from the informant who'd worn a wire. Ella listened to a version of Alessandro she'd never known, cold, calculating, cruel in ways that made her stomach turn. The man on those recordings bore little resemblance to the person who made pancakes shaped like stars and read bedtime stories with funny voices. But he was the same person. That was the truth she had to accept. When the prosecutor finished, Alessandro was given the opportunity to speak. He stood, cleared his throat, looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, I won't insult this court by claiming I'm innocent. I did what I'm accused of. I built a criminal empire, hurt people who crossed me, operated outside the law for years. The recordings are real. The evidence is valid. I'm guilty. The judge's expression didn't change, but he nodded slightly. However, Alessandro continued, I'd like the court to know that 8 years ago, I met someone who changed everything. A woman struggling to save her daughter's life, working herself to death, desperate and alone. I helped her because I'd once been that desperate child who couldn't be saved. And in helping her, I found something I didn't know I'd been looking for, a reason to be better. He glanced back at Ella, then continued. I spent the last 3 years dismantling everything I'd built. Severing criminal connections, transitioning to legitimate business, trying to become someone my daughter could be proud of. I'm not asking for leniency because I've changed. I understand that doesn't erase my crimes. I'm asking the court to know that the man standing here today is not the man on those recordings. That person is gone. What's left is a father, a husband, someone trying desperately to make amends for the life he lived. The courtroom was silent. I accept full responsibility for my actions, Alessandro finished. And I accept whatever punishment this court deems appropriate. But I also want to be clear. I will serve my time, and when I'm released, I will continue being the man my family deserves. That's my promise to them and to this court. He sat down. The judge reviewed his notes, conferred quietly with the clerk, then spoke. Mr. Moretti, I've reviewed your case extensively. The evidence against you is substantial. The crimes you committed were serious, caused harm, and undermined the legal system. Normally, given the scope of your criminal enterprise, I would be inclined toward the maximum sentence. Ella's heart stopped. However, the judge continued, I'm also aware of your cooperation with this investigation, your complete dismantling of your criminal organization, and the significant changes you've made in recent years. While change doesn't erase crimes, it does demonstrate capacity for rehabilitation. He paused, and Ella felt Alessandro tense beside her. Taking all factors into consideration, I hereby sentence you to 4 years in federal prison, with eligibility for parole after 2.5 years, contingent on exemplary behavior and continued cooperation with authorities. Do you understand the terms of this sentence? Yes, Your Honor. Then may you use this time to continue the transformation you've begun. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. 4 years. Possibly less with parole. It wasn't the 5 they'd prepared for, but it wasn't freedom either. Alessandro was allowed a few minutes to speak with them before being taken into custody. Lily threw herself at him, sobbing. I don't want you to go. I know, sweetheart. I know. Alessandro held her tightly, his own tears falling freely now. But we're going to be okay. Mama's going to take care of you, and I'm going to count down every single day until I can come home. 2.5 years is 912 days, Lily said through her sobs. I counted. Then we'll count them together. And before you know it, I'll be back. Promise. I promise. He kissed her head, her cheeks, her hands, trying to memorize everything about her. Then he turned to Ella. Take care of our girl, he said, his voice breaking. Always. And take care of yourself. Don't wait in stasis. Live, Ella. Thrive. Make the life we dreamed about, and I'll come home to it. I'll be waiting. I know. He cupped her face, kissed her one last time. I love you. Nothing changes that. Not distance, not time, not concrete walls. I love you too. Then the bailiffs came, and Alessandro Moretti was led away in handcuffs, and Ella stood in the courtroom with her daughter, watching the man they both loved disappear through a door they couldn't follow him through. If stories like this linger in your heart long after they end, don't leave just yet. Like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below, and let the next story find you when the night grows quiet again. The first months were the hardest. Lily cried herself to sleep most nights, clutching Mr. Moretti and asking when Daddy would call. Alessandro was allowed 1 phone call per week, 15 minutes, always at the same time on Sundays. They lived for those calls. Lily prepared all week with stories to tell, drawings to describe, questions she'd saved up. Alessandro listened with his full attention, asked follow-up questions, told her he was proud of her even when she'd just described a perfectly ordinary week. I got a B on my spelling test, Lily would say. That's wonderful. Which words were hardest? Necessary. I always forget if it's 1C or 2. 1C, 2SS. I'll remember that for you until I get home, and then we'll study together. Okay, Daddy. I miss you. I miss you too, sweetheart. Every single day. Ella visited monthly, the maximum allowed for non-immediate family, though Alessandro's attorney had managed to classify her as immediate through their marriage. The visits were difficult, sitting across from each other at metal tables, unable to touch except for a brief embrace at the beginning and end, talking about life while Alessandro remained frozen in time. But they endured. Ella returned to work, found solace in helping other families navigate medical crises, poured her energy into being present for Lily. She went to every soccer game, every school event, every moment Alessandro was missing, and she took photos and videos and notes so he could experience them secondhand. She dated no one, despite well-meaning friends suggesting it might help. He's my husband, she said simply. That doesn't stop being true because he's incarcerated. Lily grew. She turned 9, then 10. Her cancer remained in remission, 5 years clear, then approaching 6. She thrived in school, made friends, joined the debate team and the art club and the environmental conservation group. She wrote her father every week without fail, filling pages with drawings and stories and observations about life. Alessandro wrote back, long letters that arrived with prison stamps, filled with advice and encouragement and love. And slowly, impossibly, time passed. 24 months became 30. 30 became 36. Alessandro's parole hearing was scheduled. Ella hired the best attorney she could afford, prepared extensive documentation of Alessandro's transformation, gathered letters of support from employers and community members and families he'd helped. He's been a model prisoner, the attorney explained. Completed every rehabilitation program offered. Mentored other inmates. Worked full-time in the prison library. The parole board will be impressed. or they'll see his past and deny him anyway. Maybe. But we have to try. The hearing happened on a Wednesday in March, exactly 3 years after Alessandro had been sentenced. Ella sat in another courtroom, this one even smaller, watching Alessandro answer questions about his rehabilitation, his plans for the future, his understanding of the harm he'd caused. "I won't pretend prison has been easy," Alessandro told the board. "But it's been necessary. I've had 3 years to think about the person I was, the choices I made, the people I hurt. I've completed anger management, financial ethics courses, victim impact education. I've read hundreds of books. I've written thousands of letters to my daughter, trying to be the father she deserves even from behind bars." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "I have a family waiting for me. A wife who's remained faithful despite everything. A daughter who's growing up without her father because of choices I made before I knew her. If you grant me parole, I will spend every remaining day of my life being worthy of them. That's my promise, not to you, but to them. Please let me go home." The board deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, the chairwoman spoke clearly. "Mr. Moretti, the board has reviewed your case and your behavior during incarceration. We find that you have demonstrated genuine rehabilitation and pose minimal risk to society. Your parole is granted, effective in 30 days, contingent on securing employment and housing, and maintaining regular check-ins with your parole officer." Alessandro's shoulders sagged with relief. 30 days. After 3 years, 30 more days felt like nothing. The day of Alessandro's release, Ella and Lily woke before dawn. They'd planned everything meticulously, new clothes for Alessandro waiting at home, his favorite meal prepared, the apartment cleaned until it gleamed. Lily had made a banner that read "Welcome Home, Daddy" in letters decorated with stars and hearts. "Do you think he'll remember us?" Lily asked in the car, her voice uncertain. She was 11 now, on the cusp of becoming a teenager, taller and more self-assured but still fundamentally herself. Still the brave, bright girl who'd fought cancer and won. "He's thought about us every single day," Ella said. "He'll remember." "But what if we're different? What if he doesn't like who we became while he was gone?" "Then we'll figure it out together. That's what families do." The prison release process took hours, paperwork and inspections and final administrative procedures. Ella and Lily waited in the parking lot, watching the doors, barely breathing. And then he emerged. Alessandro Moretti stepped into the sunlight looking thinner, older, marked by time and concrete walls but fundamentally unchanged. He wore the clothes Ella had sent, jeans and a button-down shirt, civilian clothes that looked strange after 3 years of prison uniforms. His eyes scanned the parking lot, found them, and his entire face transformed. Lily ran to him. Alessandro caught her, lifted her despite her size, held her like she was everything he'd been missing. "Daddy," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You're home. You're really home." "I'm home, sweetheart. I'm home." Ella approached more slowly, giving them their moment. But when Alessandro's eyes met hers over Lily's shoulder, she saw everything she needed. Love, gratitude, promise. He set Lily down carefully, then pulled Ella into his arms. "Thank you," he whispered, "for waiting, for staying, for being exactly who you are." "Welcome home," she said, and kissed him like they'd never been apart. The drive back to the apartment was filled with Lily's chatter, 3 years of life condensed into a breathless monologue. Alessandro listened with complete attention, laughing at the right moments, asking questions, drinking in every detail. When they arrived home and he saw the banner, the meal, the effort they'd put into making his return special, he had to stop and collect himself. "You did all this for me." "We've been preparing for months," Lily said proudly. "Mama made your favorite, lasagna and garlic bread and that salad with the good cheese." "And I ordered your favorite dessert," Ella added. "Cannoli from that bakery you love." Alessandro looked between them, these two people who'd remained faithful through years of separation, and felt something in his chest break open. "I don't deserve you." "You're right," Ella said gently. "But you're stuck with us anyway." They ate dinner as a family, the first time in 3 years, and it was perfect and awkward and beautiful all at once. Alessandro was out of practice with normal conversation, with the rhythms of domestic life, but he tried. He asked about Lily's friends, her school, her interests. He asked about Ella's work, her dreams, her plans. I want to go back for my master's degree, Ella told him. Become a nurse practitioner specializing in pediatric oncology. That's wonderful. It'll take time. And money. And we'll make it work. Whatever you need. After dinner, Lily showed Alessandro her room, how it had changed, the posters she'd added, the trophies from soccer, the bookshelf overflowing with novels. You've grown so much, he said, his voice thick. I'm almost 12. That's practically a teenager. It is. And soon you'll be too cool to hang out with your old dad. Never. Lily hugged him fiercely. You're my favorite person in the whole world. Even after 3 years. Especially after 3 years. Because you came back. You promised, and you came back. That night, after Lily was asleep, Alessandro and Ella lay in bed together, something they dreamed about during countless phone calls and letters. It feels surreal, Alessandro said. Being here, touching you, sleeping in a real bed. Is it okay? Being home. It's overwhelming. Everything's so loud and bright and fast. Prison has rhythms you adapt to, silence, routine, constraint. Out here, there's too many choices, too much freedom. We'll take it slow. No pressure to jump back into everything immediately. Alessandro turned to face her. I want to be a good husband to you. A good father to Lily. But I don't know if I remember how. If I'm still capable of normal life. You'll remember. It's like riding a bike. I never learned to ride a bike. Ella laughed despite herself. Well, then it's like something else you're naturally good at. He smiled, one of those real smiles she'd missed desperately. Then his expression grew serious. I need to tell you something. About prison, about who I am now. Okay. I'm different. Harder in some ways, softer in others. I've seen things, Ella. Done things to survive, even in there. I won't be violent with you all, Lily. Never. But I'm not the same man who went in. I'm not the same woman who watched you go. We've both changed. We'll learn each other again. What if you don't like who I've become? What if I do? Alessandro pulled her close. I love you. That never changed. Not for one single day. I love you too. And we're going to figure this out. Together. They made love that night, gentle and careful, relearning each other's bodies, reconnecting in ways that words couldn't capture. Afterward, Alessandro held Ella and whispered, Thank you for giving me something worth coming home to. Thank you for coming home. The next weeks were adjustment. Alessandro met with his parole officer regularly, secured employment with a security consulting firm that didn't mind his record, and slowly rebuilt routines. He walked Lily to school each morning, a promise he'd made 3 years ago and was determined to keep. He helped with homework, attended soccer games, showed up for every small moment he'd missed. He also went to therapy, court-mandated at first, then voluntary, because he recognized that 3 years of incarceration had left marks that needed tending. I have nightmares, he told Ella one night. About being back there. About something happening that violates my parole, and they send me back. That won't happen. You can't know that. I can. Because you're committed to this life. To us. And you won't let anything jeopardize that. He wanted to believe her. Slowly, impossibly, life normalized. Alessandro's parole officer noted his exemplary behavior and reduced check-in frequency. His employer promoted him to senior consultant. He and Ella fell back into rhythms that felt both familiar and new, date nights, quiet conversations, shared dreams about the future. Lily thrived with her father home. Her grades improved, her confidence blossomed, and she started talking about college and careers and futures that stretched beyond what she'd once imagined. I want to be a doctor, she announced one evening at dinner. Like the ones who saved me, so I can save other kids. Alessandro's eyes shone with pride. You'll be an excellent doctor. You think so? I know so. You're brave and smart and kind. Exactly what sick kids need. Will you help me study when I'm in medical school? If you still want me around by then. Always, Daddy. Always. 2 years after his release, Alessandro's parole ended. He was officially free. No more check-ins, no more restrictions, no more surveillance. They celebrated quietly, just the three of them, acknowledging the milestone without dwelling on the years lost. "What do we do now?" Lily asked. She was 13, poised between childhood and adolescence. Still her father's daughter, but becoming her own person. Alessandro looked at Ella, then at Lily, then back at Ella. "Now," he said, "we live. We build the future we always dreamed about. We support Lily becoming a doctor. We help Mama finish her master's degree. We take vacations and have adventures and make up for lost time. And we stay together." Lily asked, her voice uncertain in the way of teenagers testing boundaries. "Always," Alessandro and Ella said together. "Good." Lily smiled. "Because I'm not done needing you guys yet." Years passed. Lily graduated high school with honors, earned a scholarship to a prestigious university, started her journey toward medicine. Ella completed her master's degree, became a nurse practitioner, opened a practice specializing in supporting families through pediatric cancer. Alessandro continued his work in security consulting, built a reputation for integrity, and occasionally spoke at rehabilitation programs about second chances and transformation. They bought a house, a real one, with a yard and enough bedrooms for everyone to have space. They adopted a dog Lily named Justice, which Alessandro found appropriately ironic. They hosted holidays and celebrated milestones and built the ordinary, beautiful life they'd fought so hard to reach. And on quiet nights, when Lily was away at college and the house was empty except for the two of them, Alessandro and Ella would sit together and marvel at the journey. "We made it," Ella said one evening, her head on Alessandro's shoulder. "We did. Was it worth it? Everything we went through?" Alessandro looked at the photos on their wall, Lily's graduation, their vow renewal ceremony 5 years after his release, family vacations, and ordinary moments preserved forever. "Every second," he said. "Every tear, every fear, every day apart. All of it brought us here. To this life, this love, this family. Yes, Ella. It was worth it." She kissed him then, soft and certain. "I love you, Alessandro Moetti." "I love you too, Ella Moetti. Always have. Always will." And in that moment, surrounded by the life they'd built from impossible circumstances, they knew the truth. Love doesn't ask permission before it arrives. It simply takes root and grows, regardless of the soil. And when tended with patience, courage, and unwavering commitment, it becomes something beautiful enough to last a lifetime. The broke waitress who'd hugged a mafia boss in desperation had found her happy ending, not through rescue or fairy tale magic, but through the slow, difficult, beautiful work of building something real. And the mafia boss who'd thought himself beyond redemption had learned that transformation is always possible, that love can heal even the deepest wounds, and that sometimes the greatest power comes not from control, but from surrender. Together, they created something neither could have imagined alone, a family, a future, and a love story that proved even the most broken pieces can fit together perfectly.